Welcome back to Established Dominance Fantasy Football. Tonight we'll recap the Week 6 Sunday and Monday games and help you make sense of what happened. And we'll also try to set you up for early success this week. Remember to monitor and follow us on X at Established Dominance for injury updates prior to each game. Now here's a quick injury review from Sunday, Monday. Brian Robinson was out, but Eckler dominated. Smith and Brown, they were both in and caught touchdowns. Pittman made us wait until game time, then he caught a touchdown, and then he's like, hey, I can go on IR at any time. Whatever, bro. Rashad White, he was doubtful, game time decision. He's out. Bucky and Tucker dominated, but I don't think we go grab Tucker just yet. It's all based on White. Singletary, he was out. Tracy had a decent game. Mixon, he plans to play. Then he was huge. And then Pierce played, and his garbage time was huge. We'll talk more later. Ingram went from plans to play to dominated like we know he can. Let's hope he keeps going with that. James Cook went from, I plan to play, but I'm out now. And then Ray Davis rolled. Warren, he was healthy. He played. He averaged 1 yard to carry. But all he did was make Najee mad. Rattler, he started for Carr. He looked okay for a first-timer, but it was a bad defense. He still didn't play that well. Neighbors was out, but his cohorts couldn't score. O'Connell, he started. And it was like Minshew, but a different uniform number. Stevenson was out. Gibson got the start, but didn't do anything with it. Shakir, he was out, but then he's in. And he should have stayed out. JT was out. Goodson shined, but not that bright. And then Richardson was a game time decision we knew was fake. The weird thing is Flacco won, and they already were saying after the game, Richardson is playing week 7. So sounds like winning just isn't enough. Okay. All right, let's take a look at Sunday and Monday's games. Let's start off with the Jags and Bears in jolly old England. Now the Jags love to play there. It's a huge home crowd for them, but they lost. Chicago dominated. So Chicago gives up a lot on the ground, but that didn't actually happen. ETN get injured early in this one. I think they were hiding his shoulder injury. It's terrible. But Bigsby, he had a tough week as well. Chicago normally forces a lot of turnovers, but they only had 2 with 3 sacks. Jacksonville running backs were horrible. They were barely targeted. Jags started off decent, but then they got behind, so I think game script was against it. The Jags defense is just horrible. All skill players in Chicago were supposed to be started, and I'm glad you did. But DJ Moore was disappointing. He didn't have a great day. Kmet had 2 touchdowns. Allen had 2 touchdowns. Now, the Jags have strong outside corner play that was reinforced in this game. It forced Caleb to look inside, and that's where Kmet and Allen, they thrive. So he had a 4 touchdown performance, which was awesome. Swift was dominating 120 yards total from scrimmage and a touchdown. Those were the real stories here. And then Ingram. 10 catches for 102 yards. Is he back? I think so. I think you start him until he pulls a hammy again in pregame. All right, Cards and Green Bay. Now, I said Arizona is susceptible to the run, and it should give Jacobs a good day as long as Wilson doesn't vulture him. Now, the Cards were torched for 179 yards on the ground, but it was like a peanut butter spread situation. Jacobs, he got 62 yards. He caught 3 for 28, but no touchdowns, so not a great day. Wilson looked faster. He averaged 7.7 a carry, but he barely got any touches. He got like 8 to 10. Lloyd is still out, so I think Wilson deserves a pickup in deeper leagues, but you can't expect too much unless Jacobs is out. Now, if Jacobs is out, he's probably a number 1 guy until Lloyd comes back. Green Bay, they're susceptible to wide receiver ones, so I expected Harrison to have a good day, but then he got a concussion. So obviously, you can't expect that. Monitor his progress this week, but I think it's safe to say he's probably going to be out, even though they play on Monday Night Football. And that's the worst part. If he's questionable going into Monday night, I mean, do you really save that wide receiver slot for him? Can you chance that? Because what do you have left to play? I don't want you to be left high and dry. I would assume, unless you get really good comms this week, that he isn't going to play. Now, Reed, he's an auto play for Green Bay, but, Watson, he ended up playing. They both got touchdowns. It was a great day. I hope you bench Wicks like I asked you to. With Reed and a healthy Watson and Dobbs out there, Wicks is really a bench candidate, and he had a rough day. Now, Dobbs was so weird. Dobbs, riddle me this. He complains that he's not getting enough love, and then he decides to skip 2 practices. Then they suspend him. Then he comes back, and they absolutely focus on getting him a touchdown, and he gets 2. Now, that's not a really good thing. First of all, it sets a bad tone. Second, it's a bad example. Third, it's he's not a role model, and this is just terrible leadership. So I was really stunned by that. Now, Reed, he led with targets and catches. He went 6 for 28 and 1, which is awesome. Love had 4 touchdowns. Watson got the other one. But I just, the Dobbs thing, it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Hopefully that doesn't happen again. Now, Kraft returned to obscurity because there was a full complement of receivers. That miracle is over. And of note, I really haven't talked about Arizona very much in this game, but they couldn't hold on the ball. Murray, Connor, Dortch all fumbled the ball. The loss of Harrison was obviously huge for the entire team. The only bright spot was McBride. He's the new alpha now that Harrison is out. He caught 8 for 96. Nice night. The lone touchdown went to Wilson, but McBride owners were like, where's my touchdown? Now, Green Bay's dominance in defense was totally felt in this game. All of the NFC North, all of those teams have great defenses. Shout out to Detroit. So sad. Aiden Hutchinson, he's going to be out for the season. I don't care what they say. He's not coming back. It was horrible. Prayers up for Aiden. Love him. I'm a Detroit fan, so super sad to see that. But all the NFC North division teams, be careful when you're starting guys against these NFC North teams. Their defenses are tough. Green Bay has averaged 2 takeaways each game this season, and that's big. And then I think they're the only guys who've done it. Now, since we mentioned Detroit, let's talk about the beatdown of epic proportion that just made the entire country happy. All right, the Lions go into Dallas and spank them so bad. It was like not even tears of joy. You just have to sit there and enjoy the moment as a Lions fan. Just watching Jerry Jones on his birthday, literally just looking at this team where he pays $280 million for 2 of his players, and they are absolutely terrible. Let's talk about those terrible players who make $280 million between the 2 of them. Dak Prescott, 178 yards, 2 interceptions. Well done, Dak. All right. And who's the other one? Oh, yeah, CeeDee Lamb, 14 targets, 7 receptions, 89 yards, no touchdowns. I keep saying no touchdowns. You want to know why? Because they didn't get any touchdowns. And that just warms my heart. It just makes me feel so good inside. Just like a scotch. You're skiing down the mountain. But anyway, let's just get back to it. They couldn't run the ball. They couldn't pass the ball. And the Lions, Goff, he put up 315 yards and 3 touchdowns. He doesn't make as much as, Dak Prescott, but whatever, right? Montgomery, 12 for 80 and 2 touchdowns. He is amazing. Those of you who thought that Jahmyr Gibbs was going to take over and be the man, yeah, I said it preseason. I'll say it again. Montgomery is the play. Now, Gibbs had a nice night. 12 rushes for 63, but no touchdowns there. He caught 3 for 28, but again, no touchdowns there. Montgomery's the man. And as far as we're talking about receiving, Williams was a bright spot. 3 catches, 76 yards and a touchdown. Khalif Raymond, welcome, 4 for 73. Laporta catches 1 ball for 52 and a touchdown. I almost lost my game this week based on that one play, but I ended up squeaking out a win. Sorry, Radar. Not sorry. And then, of course, St. Brown, late garbage touchdown. He caught 4 for 37 in that touchdown. At that point, as a Lions fan, I'm like, wait a second. I love beating down the Cowboys. It just makes my Sunday complete. But why are all my skill players in the 4th quarter when I've got a 31-point lead? Doesn't make any sense. Congrats to all of you who had St. Brown and got that late touchdown, but he shouldn't have been in the game. All right, moving on to the Colts-Titans. Now, I said the key to this game was Richardson's availability. Now, if he plays and you downgrade Pittman, but you upgrade Pierce, okay, he didn't play. The game was up. We saw that. What a joke. Flacco, he gives them the best chance to win, and they did. They won. Pittman played, which was kind of a surprise. He was underwhelming, but he caught 3 for 35 and a touchdown, 3 for 35 and a touchdown, and that was good enough. Now, then he comes out and he's like, oh, well, I could go on IR. Here's my advice. I want you to trade Pittman now. Right now. Sell high after this touchdown performance because, how can you trust him moving forward? Is he going to just, on Thursday decide, yeah, you know what, I'm going to go on IR. Dude, you're going to get totally hosed. You need to trade him now. You'll get something pretty decent, probably a high wide receiver too. At least someone who will play every week where you're not wondering, Is this guy going to, is he just going to come up with a bye week because he feels like it? As for Pierce, Flacco overthrew him on a wide open touchdown. It was awful. I'm just sitting there as a Pierce owner. I'm like, I know you all were too. Downs had the other touchdown and had a nice night with a 7 for 66 and one line. So pretty decent night for Flacco, but here comes Richardson. So downgrade Pittman, and he can still hit Pierce. Maybe not. We'll see. But yeah, it's a downgrade to all the skill players. Now the Titans, they're susceptible to premium runners, but again, JT wasn't in, so it was Sermon and Goodson. They didn't really have a good night. I didn't think they were. Goodson, he flashed more speed. He looks more appealing moving forward, but he only had 12 touches. Sermon had 18. But the premium back moving forward, I think, is Goodson. It's only going to be, it's going to be short-lived, 1 to 2 weeks, but he's a decent bye week replacement until JT comes back. Now on the flip side, Colts give up a lot on the ground. I said Pollard should have a big day, and he did. 17 rushes, 93 yards, and a touchdown, and 3 catches. The only thing holding him back, I said, would be Levis, the turnover machine, which I was impressed. He was only intercepted once. I mean, let's call it a win, all right? I mean, they lost, but let's call it a win. The coaches, they didn't give him his touchdown run. He didn't vulture Pollard, so good there. There was no crying on the bench. Improvement. We can work on this, okay? And then let's talk about the elephant in the room. Ridley, 8 targets, 0 catches. Guess who's getting a touchdown next week? Yeah, it's Ridley. All right, Texans versus Patriots. Now, I said the Pats are susceptible to the run, but there's a lot of question marks at running back for the Texans. Well, they answered it. They decided to give the ball to Mixon, who looks healthy, and he turned it into 132 yards total and 2 touchdowns. Well done. Welcome back. All the Mixon orders are like, thank God. We had the best running back in the country, and then we lost him for 5 weeks. So welcome back. And then Pierce, he got a huge garbage time touchdown, like this huge run, barely touched him. He looked good, but I mean, with Mixon in, he's just not going to get that much play. He only had 9 touches. Now with a full complement of backs, Ogunbowale, love him, but he took a back seat. I think you can safely drop him if Pierce and Mixon are indeed healthy. Now Diggs, without Collins, I thought he was going to have a great night. He did. 6 for 77 and 1. That's a great line. Dell also picked up some of Collins' extra looks. He went 7 for 57 and a touchdown, and he looked really solid. So both of those guys moving forward are going to be great plays. Hope you picked up Dell. We said earlier in the week that Hutchinson, the third wide receiver, was kind of being overhyped and he wasn't going to get the targets. Well, he got 2 targets, 0 catches. So that tells me everything. I would drop him at this point. CJ had a good week, 3 touchdowns, but less than 200 yards passing. He had a win, and that's a decent line. I think he put up like 27 points in my league, but it's still, you expected more on that game. The biggest news was obviously Drake May. New England's got something here. I said he has escapability, and he did, but he was careless with the ball. His interceptions were horrible, terrible overthrows. And then, of course, he lost a fumble. Now, I thought he was going to force Polk the ball, but Polk only had 4 targets on the night. He looked kind of lost. Douglas was the big winner, 6 catches for 92 and 1. So if he's out there, you need to go grab him. And then Booty and Henry also had touchdowns. I wouldn't, jump out and get Booty, but I mean, Henry, he's probably out there. You're probably starting him. So that was good news for you. Now, the Texans aren't exactly a shutdown defense. So, I mean, May's going into Jacksonville next week. They're a little bit tougher on the outside. So I think he's going to have to force it to the tight ends, to the slot receiver. Probably going to run the ball a little bit more. He'll probably be on the run as well. Is it too soon to predict a win for this kid? I don't know. I thought his performance was good enough tonight, though, to make him a bye week replacement. Honestly, he can give you 20, 25 points. You need to consider him if he's out there. All right. I also said expect Gibson to get 15 to 20 touches. He did. Okay. I also thought he was going to get a touchdown, but I mean, he got 16 touches, but the game just got out of hand. He wasn't very efficient on the ground. And May was basically just running for his life and throwing awful interceptions. I mean, what are you going to do? Rookies are going to be rookies. Gibson is still a volume start until Stevenson returns. All right, let's talk Bucs Saints. The big news is Rattler started and he was, not terrible. I mean, I downgraded all the players out there. I definitely didn't think Shaheed was going to get any love because as a deep threat, I don't think Rattler can get him the ball. Rattler was running all over the place. He was throwing on the run. I mean, he's got a strong arm, so I think I underestimated him here. I figured he was going to look to Olave, but he really didn't have that chance because Olave got a concussion early. So you need to monitor that if you're starting Olave. I don't think he's going to play this week, at least coming up, but we'll see. Rattler did what most rookie quarterbacks do. They find the running backs to dump it to. They find tight ends. So Kamara, he got plenty of dump offs like I thought he would. He had an 18 PPR a night, which is good. And then the tight ends, they got some love. The only touchdown, though, went to Bub Means on the receiving end. This game between these two teams is normally scrappy, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I really thought Evans was going to get a touchdown here, but Godwin was the big leader. He had 13 targets, caught 11 for 125 and 2. Huge night. Mayfield put up a 50 burger on the Saints, going 324 for 4 and 3. I mean, that's huge. White didn't play, so Bucky Irving, I said, was going to get 15 to 20 touches, and he did. Got 16 touches, turned it into 105 and a touchdown. Well done, Bucky. Everybody was waiting for that. But hold on. Sean Tucker comes in, explodes with 17 touchdowns for 192 yards and 2 touchdowns. Who is this kid? He found himself wide open on multiple plays. It was almost like the Saints were like, I don't know who this kid is. We're not even going to cover him. Next thing you know, he's catching a ball 15 yards down the field, looking down. He's like, hey, I can run the next 40 and no one's going to touch me. It was just crazy. Before you lose your mind, the kid played awesome. Don't get me wrong. But the secret's out. All right. So they're going to pay a little bit more attention to him. I don't think you're going to see this kind of performance again. But I mean, I think you need to go out and get this kid. He's a third stringer. So if White comes back, is he going to take the place of Bucky? I don't think so at this point because Bucky has earned it a little bit more than Tucker has. But, if White doesn't come back, I mean, this guy needs to be rostered. A shout out to Kid Otten for catching a touchdown, but disappearing otherwise. All right, let's talk Browns and Eagles. I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but I mean, Watson, he's just terrible. I mean, he's failing miserably. I don't care. All the excuses they make for him, forget about it, okay? Everybody who goes up against Cleveland, their defense is a must start. I told you, start the Eagles. Yeah, they had a nice night, 5 sacks, only 268 total yards of offense for the Browns. Watson is an embarrassment on and off the field. And I mean, the coaching staff, the owners, they just need to show some backbone. I think everybody in Cleveland agrees. I mean, the proof's in the pudding. Look at the record, all right? Hurts, he got his 2 top receivers back and he threw them both a touchdown. So he's feeling good in the neighborhood. Goddard, I thought he was going to take a back seat because the wide receivers are back, and he did, but it was even worse because he got a hamstring injury. So you want to monitor that this week. Calcaterra was the winner of all of those Goddard targets. He went 4 for 67. So he's a good pickup if you need somebody for a bye week. And then AJ, of course, we talked about. He got a touchdown. He had the big night. 9 targets, catching 6 for 116 and a touchdown. Devonta caught a touchdown, but he only had 4 targets. Let's hope he sees a little bit more moving forward, in my opinion. But the surprising thing was Barkley took kind of a backseat. Now, the Cleveland defensive front, they're really good. I mean, obviously, Myles Garrett is awesome, and Barkley struggled. He really did. He had a sub 10-point PPR performance. So that's probably a floor performance for him. I think moving forward, you'll see much better days. But I mean, it's just a shout out to the defensive front for Cleveland in this case. Now, I thought Cooper was going to have a decent day. I was hoping Winston was going to play, to be honest, but he didn't. He did lead the team. He caught 4 for 42, but, that's not Hall of Fame news. The big important result, Ford was lost to a hamstring injury. Not sure how long, but Nick Chubb was announced he'll be back next week. So maybe you pair him with Winston and you might start to win. I don't know. I'm just going to throw it out there as an idea. All right, let's talk Washington versus Baltimore. Obviously, everyone's favorite, Daniels, he's out there. We're all rooting for him. He looks great. But I figured Baltimore was going to give him a lot of pressure. Now, they're weak against speedy receivers. That's what I said. And, if they're up against a speedy receiver with great hands, which McLaurin is, I thought he was going to have a nice day. And he did. He had a 6 for 53 and 2 touchdown lines. So if you have a speedy outside wide receiver against Baltimore, they're going to roll. So keep that in the back of your mind for future matchups coming up. And then Noah Brown, he led in targets with 8. Ertz led in yards with 68, but Terry was the big winner on the night. The big question here was Eckler or McNichols with Robinson out. Now, I thought McNichols could see the early work with Eckler as the pass catching back, as long as the game didn't get out of hand. But if it does, I thought Eckler would be a better as a catcher. It didn't really get out of hand, but they obviously went with the more proven back in Eckler. He didn't get a whole lot of touches. He barely broke 10 points PPR, and McNichols only had 2 touches, and that was surprising. I also said Henry would have a big game, but I mean, honestly, when does he not have a big game? But he didn't catch any balls. He was just amazing, though. He dominated for 132 on the ground and 2 touchdowns. For me, the shocker was Flowers catching 9 for 132. The only touchdown went to Andrews? All right, I'm going to say it again. You need to trade Andrews, sell while high right here, okay? Just get your money's worth, get it out there, get something good for him. This is just not something that's going to keep happening. Now, Jackson, he had a nice night with 360 total yards, and he had 1 touchdown and 1 interception. Trade Andrews. Let's talk Chargers versus Denver. Now, I don't know what you expected, but I said that we have 2 elite defenses going up against each other and the lowest over-under in Vegas at 35.5. So, I mean, what did you really expect? The weird thing was Vidal, Sutton, and Franklin were the ones who got the TDs. Nix threw for 2 TDs. I thought he was going to run for 1, but he did run for 61 yards, so he had a decent day. Vele, once again, reemerged, catching 4 for 78. Sutton had a nice day with 4 for 53 and 1. I thought Dobbins was going to have difficulty in this game, but he had a nice night. 25 carries for 96 and a touchdown. He even caught 2 passes. For some weird reason, Vidal actually got a touchdown, but Dobbins dominated. There was no question that they were just going to run him. Now, Surtain, I said he was going to shut down some guys tonight, but he wasn't able to do that because he got a concussion. Check his status, because with him out, Denver is a much weaker defense. I did tell you to bench Quentin Johnston, and I hope you did, because he didn't have a great night at all. Denver is weak against tight ends. I'll say it again. The Chargers don't really have an elite tight end. They have Disley. He caught 4 for 26. But remember that moving forward, tight ends can have very good success against Denver. And then the last surprise was McConkey. He only went 4 for 43. He had 8 targets, which was double the nearest receiver, but you know, I was hoping for a touchdown here, but it's still a good sign that he's leading in targets. All right, let's talk Pittsburgh versus Vegas. Now, Pittsburgh, they're rolling with Fields. If he can't beat Vegas, then he's done. Well, he did. Wilson's going to be the backup forever now. I mean, all Fields can do is manage the offense, but I mean, his 145 yards passing, 0 touchdowns. I mean, that's beyond atrocious, okay? But he ran 11 for 59 and 2 touchdowns. I keep saying it over and over again. He takes 1 read, maybe 2, and then he's off running, which is terrible for Najee and Warren's numbers. And by the way, Warren played. Congratulations. 6 carries, 7 yards, a yard a carry. Seriously? I think it can fall over for more than a yard. And all that did, Najee he got so upset, he ran for 100 yards and a touchdown. It's like, my backfield, everybody get out of my way. He was bowling people over. It was awesome. Welcome back, Najee. Pickens, his temper tantrum last week, we were wondering if it was going to turn into targets. It did. 8 targets. But again, it's Fields throwing the ball. He only caught 3 for 53. Not good. Freiermuth, the second leading receiver on the team, he was almost non-existent. Vegas, they're a chocolatey mess. Myers, was he in? Was he out? He was never even there. Tucker gave us a goose egg. O'Connell, I mean, he looked like Minshew. There was really no difference. Bowers, he's elite. He just went off. He's the only good thing on that team. He went 9 for 71. So nice night. I thought Pittsburgh would do better against him, but not. Now, Zamir White was out, so it was a battle between Madison and Abdullah for the king of mediocre. Madison won. He averaged 2 yards a carry, but he caught 5 for 32 and a touchdown. So, he had a nice PPR night. Abdullah, he fumbled twice. That's going to see you on the bench. All right, you can go sit down for the rest of the game. Let's talk Atlanta versus Carolina. Cousins, yeah, he's not going to put up 53 points PPR. I'm sorry, people. All right. I said he was going to have a regression game. He did. He only threw 225 and 1. That's not a great night, okay? You just can't do 53 points back-to-back nights. You got to expect that. I hope you did. I have him on my team, and I benched him, okay? Now, Bijan, he was off the injury wire, which was nice. I said he was going to have a big night, and he did. 2 touchdowns, 105 total yards. All the Atlanta scale players I thought would have a nice night, and they did. London, 6 for 74 and a touchdown. Even Pitts got 3 catches for 70. The biggest surprise was Algier out-touching Bijan and outperforming him. 18 carries for 105 and a touchdown on the ground. Now, game script allowed him to get more carries, but he was impressive. Let's just be honest. You need to roster him, obviously, if Bijan gets hurt, but he's got talent if they'll play him. So if it's a game script where you think he could actually get extra playing time, that's somebody you need to be putting in. Now, the Panthers, they got Leggett back. DJ was questionable, but he ended up playing. DJ led the team with 6 for 78 and a touchdown. Leggett had the other touchdown, but he only caught 3 for 43. Hubbard had a bright game, 18 for 92 on the ground, 5 catches for 11 in the air, but no touchdown. Dalton was okay, 221 for 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. That's enough for a bye week replacement. I mean, what do you need? All right, let's talk Cincy and the New York Giants. The Giants, they're very tough against the run. I didn't think Moss or Brown would have a decent game here. Okay, Brown had an okay line, 10 rushes, 53 yards, and a touchdown. Moss was benched after a fumble, so he didn't do himself any favors. Now, I thought both teams would do very well in the pass game. I was totally wrong here, okay? Weird. It was a really weird game. I thought they'd have big numbers from Slayton and Robinson. They were targeted a lot, but Jones was so bad with his 50% completion rate. I mean, Slayton and Robinson both had 11 targets, and they barely caught half and barely cracked 50 yards. No touchdowns. On the flip side, Higgins had 7 for 77. Chase caught 5 for 72, but neither of those guys got touchdowns. The biggest highlight was Burrow's 47-yard run where the Giants all went student body left and Burrow went to the right. It was hilarious. Now, my sleeper pick of Theo Johnson, he wasn't great, but I mean, he caught everything that was thrown his way, 3 for 30. So I'm still impressed with the kid. I don't think he's getting enough love right now. Singletary was out. I said Tracy should get another 100 scrimmage yards, which he did, and he finished with 22 points PPR. Really nice night. It ended up being a defensive struggle. It was the most boring game of the week, I think. I was a little bit surprised, but oh well. And then for Monday Night Madness, let's talk Bills versus Jets. This was a higher scoring game than I thought it would be. Cook ended up not playing. Ray Davis dominated the Jets. 20 carries, 97 yards. He's the must pickup player for this week. And if Cook doesn't come back, wow, I mean, it's going to be awesome. If Cook does come back, he has certainly earned himself a timeshare and he needs to be rostered. If you're a Cook owner, you're worried right now. Allen, he didn't struggle, but he didn't play great. 215 yards, 2 touchdowns, no mistakes, which is why the Jets lost, because they made mistakes. Touchdowns went to Knox and Hollins on their only catches of the day. Weird. And then Davis led all receivers with 55 yards. So Ray Davis again. Kincaid, 6 for 51, led the team in targets. Shakir, he ended up playing. I thought he was going to be a do not play. He ends up playing, but he disappears. Now, the big question was, okay, what's the new coach going to do? How's he going to win? Well, his answer was to do exactly what I told him to, and that is feed Hall the ball, just like they did last year, and he can be successful. And he was. He dominated 18 carries, 113 yards, plus 5 catches for 56. No touchdowns, but welcome back, Hall. If you're a Braylon Allen owner, you are upset. Only 3 touches. I also said the Bills would struggle in coverage against the slot receiver, and then I thought Lazard would get another touchdown, and he didn't disappoint. 6 catches, 114 yards, and a touchdown on that Hill Murray beauty. Rodgers can still do that. It's amazing. Wilson, he led in targets with 10. He finished 8 for 107 and a touchdown, but ultimately, Rodgers' interception at the end of the game, that was a doozy. He ended up 294, 2-1. I mean, a decent night, PPR, but man, he's losing games all on his own. There's the Week 6 recap. We talked about some ads, some drops, and some trades to consider, and we'll look at the waivers in our next podcast. Now, before we sign off, I want to give a shout out to our men and women in uniform who protect the freedoms we hold dear. Thank you for your service and sacrifice. And finally, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and follow us on X, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts so you can stay up to date on our latest content. And until then, remember, established dominance isn't just a catchphrase, it's a commitment. Are you ready?